Thanks, fellas.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Roisin Garvey and this is my colleague Derek Oakley from the Department of Technology and Enhanced Learning in Cork Institute of Technology. My first slide is a little bit of a series of mouthfuls here. In this presentation we'll be looking at some of the sort of challenges that are facing higher education in terms of the availability of training in technologies for teaching and learning for both the lecturers and sort of ed techs and learning technologists, whatever phrase you want to use. So what we're largely focusing on is through that is a sort of potential solution in the form of an ongoing project funded by the National Forum called TEL Tools, which is an online resource open to all educators, which is essentially a library of short sort of media-rich learning objects looking to equip educators with the sort of skills and knowledge to use technology for their teaching and learning in an effective and a practical manner. So we're working on this project with their friends in IT Tralee, UCC, UCD and DIT. They've been milling around here the last couple of days. So technology enhanced learning in third level education continues to grow in popularity. I mean, it's the reason that we're all here. There's nothing new with that. And it's playing an ever greater role in the practices of many Irish educators. And their teaching and learning is actually adapting year on year. So it's not just a case of pulling in a bit of technology, it's actually maybe having a look at the methods that they're using in their teaching and learning and seeing how technology would work with that and if they need anything changed. Despite all these positive declarations and all the nice things that we're saying about them, there are a number of challenges. None of these will be particularly new to anybody here, I don't think. What we're looking at really is addressing why the uptake is still particularly low, why it remains so low. One of the interesting, I know that reference is a bit old at this stage, but the whole idea that a lack of training is an issue in terms of low uptake of technology for both students and for lecturers. Now I know Eleanor in UCD had she was mentioning in her talk yesterday, I have very bad facial recognition, so if she's here I do apologise. But in her talk yesterday she was talking about how students are not necessarily digital natives as well, you know, so the idea of training being needed for both lecturers and the students is something that's quite interesting. So these sort of problems are in keeping with many of the findings of the National Forum themselves. One of the surveys that they did on the use of technology to enhance teaching and learning gathered feedback from real life on the ground lecturers about their issues integrating technology in their teaching and learning practice. So there was kind of a free text comment section in it as well, which gathered a little bit more insight into the actual issues that they're facing. And you can see there on the right some of the words that were jumping out. You know, time, support, confidence is another key one as well. So in terms of the specific barriers to effective use of technology enhanced learning, what it kind of boils down to really is a lack of training, a lack of time. This is nothing new. This is something that you'll see at all levels of education. This lack of time for training, for actually integrating the technology. All of these are still barriers, and a lack of awareness regarding the actual potential of technology enhanced learning. So there's sort of this constant emergence and improved technologies. It can actually often result in confusion for lecturers, not knowing how to use technologies to their full capacity or full potential. Additionally, as well as this sort of slow uptake of new technologies has seen certain actual popular technologies not actually being available when a lecturer comes along to actually hearing about them. So essentially, any solution to this issue needs to address these particular barriers as a priority. So this range of challenges also crucially includes a lack of consideration for the importance of pedagogy as well. So a lot of the technology enhanced learning training that goes on around the place tends to be quite technical, so little consideration is often given to how it can be used for particular teaching and learning practices, methods and things like that a lot of the lecturers are using. So what we were looking at as well with our potential solution is that it doesn't undermine the pedagogy in use, that it will fit in a little bit better. So that's not to say that there isn't a genuine intent and a desire to use these technologies, but it does appear that the solution seems to be more training and support, which is, as you all know, easier said than done. So which brings me to our solution, which is the TEL Tools Project. As I mentioned, it's funded through the National Forum. So our project outputs have been developed to address the difficulties that I've just been mentioning there, and some of the barriers and things like that related to the provision of TEL training to higher education educators, and also, as I mentioned, like to edtechs as well. So what we're looking to do as well is to kind of target the varied approaches to teaching and learning which individual educators may undertake. So, I mean, every educator is different. You might find that you're doing something very similar to somebody else, but there's a lot of people that are doing quite specific things out there. So in terms of addressing the key issues, a study from the Rapid Learning Institute a couple of years ago found that 94% of learners prefer short form modules of maybe 10 minutes or less, and 65% said most of the online training modules that they receive, they kind of contain too much information. So what we're talking about really is this whole microlearning concept. So it's been found to sort of improve knowledge retention with the kind of providing bite-sized chunks of information that are available on demand, which is kind of essential there. Learners are not overloaded by large amounts of content or this kind of extraneous information. It can be structured as well to form larger and more complex learning paths. So you're still getting like your little bite-sized chunks, but you can also maybe make it a little bit more complex. And it's suitable for formal and informal learning. So microlearning has been seen to sort of rapidly reduce the gaps in skills and knowledge, and it's more cost effective to design and deliver, which is key for kind of industry and also for people like ourselves who are working in as e-learning technologists or what have you. It's mobile friendly, so as I mentioned, you have like things like it's on the go. It makes it easier for learning on the go. And it tends to be sort of media rich, which can support retention. It's ideal for this whole idea of the millennials, the new learners with shorter attention spans. Okay, so within the project itself then, we were taking all of this into consideration. So the learning content within this TEL Tools online platform is designed to be sort of granular and flexible. So it's sequences of short, media-rich learning objects, which we've called microlessons. So each of these microlessons is structured to provide a sort of an explanation and a reason behind the use of the technology for teaching and learning. So the what is it and why, any advantages and limitations, some initial steps to get up and running quickly, and then also a range of resources, sort of peer-reviewed papers, things like that are available as an additional feature of it. So the use of the structure as well is designed to directly match particular tools to particular strategies. So this was key for us to keep the pedagogy at the forefront. So I'm not sure I have enough time, but I might skip through this slightly because Dara is actually going to do a bit of a demo of the system. But what we wanted was any of the content that we were doing just to be very self-contained and short. You could get that bite-sized bit of information, exactly like what you want to do, what technology you want to use, and how you're going to apply it to your actual practice. Sorry, on my notes. Okay, so to date, I think over about 150 microlessons have been identified, if I have that right, and about which is an additional sort of 52 microcourses and 26 sort of paths. So the paths would be the sort of even more complex kind of learning that we've provided by combining the microlessons and the microcourses and things. So what we were looking at as well is looking at what lecturers are doing at the moment in their teaching and learning. What are the actual activities that they're doing, and how could we target that with technology? So what we were looking at is sort of 4 main categories. So sort of peer learning activities, assessment activities, teacher-directed learning activities, and then student-centered learning activities. This is our way of kind of breaking things down to very, very granular bits of information and methods and things like that that lecturers are actually doing, and then targeting those individually. So one of the benefits as well of these micro courses and the paths is that you can actually identify different users as well. So if you think about something like an educator who's new to the concept of technology enhanced learning, they might need to be introduced to the actual basic concepts of it, or maybe even experienced ed techs may still need to know about how to apply technology to particular practices. So, you know, in saying that, you can kind of accommodate different levels of users, so beginner, intermediate, experienced users, with a sort of custom guided paths to help achieve larger goals. Just an example, a kind of a bit of an abstract one. What we're looking in terms of the micro course would be something like helping students to collaborate in group projects. So the very kind of specific micro lesson then would be facilitating student discussion using video chat. So it's what am I doing and what's the technology that I want to apply to it. Facilitating student collaborative content development using collaborative writing software. Quite specific things. And then, as I said, as a whole, then it would be facilitating student collaborative development. And then if you look at that in terms of a path, you could really guide a user. So what would they be doing, for instance, with a group project? Well, they'd need to have their students do sort of brainstorming, then do the actual development, and then provide feedback to them. So this could be an entire path of different, quite granular learning objects. So what I'm going to do now is just pass you over to Dara, who's going to do a bit of a demo.
Thanks, Lucy. Great. So just while I'm setting up, I might just point out that sometimes I've been told when I present, I have a tendency to speak quite fast, or sometimes to lapse into a pure like Cork accent. It just kind of comes out. So if I do become unintelligible at any point, someone please just let me know.
What are you saying? What?
I really was asking for that one. So as Rashid mentioned, I suppose at the heart of the idea behind the platform is just this open education resource that features a series of micro kind of sized learning objects which take the form of courses. And as Roisin kind of touched on, there's 2 main target audiences really. One is individual lecturers who may wish to introduce technology into their teaching or learning. The other would maybe be individuals, I would imagine quite like many of us here, who would be maybe charged with promoting or teaching these individuals how to bring technology into their practice. So the platform was kind of designed with these 2 kind of target audiences in mind. So the site is available at telu.me, it's open and active. Under all courses, all of the different micro lessons and micro courses are available. They're filterable, so if, for example, I'm interested in how technology might help me or my students collaborate or communicate, if some new ways in which I can give students feedback, all of those are kind of browsable on the sidebar on the left. The other element, and it's kind of key to the approach which we took with kind of merging the pedagogy and technology, is, for example, if I'm a lecturer and I'm quite familiar with online walls, then it's possible to maybe kind of look for that and then look at how I might introduce this technology, which I'm already using, into kind of teaching practice. So each of the courses then, as Roisin pointed out, is designed to be quite granular, quite kind of self-contained, and kind of essentially designed for busy people, which all of us are. Each course then is structured essentially, and you can kind of see the table of contents on the right-hand side, as a series of questions. And the idea behind this approach was that it was kind of a useful way of structuring information in a way that would be kind of practical, that would be immediate, and that would be very kind of visible for the individual taking the course. So the structure kind of follows: what is the technology in question, why should I use it, how can I use it, where can I get it, how do I get started with it, and what else should I know about it. And I suppose the whole idea behind this approach really was to kind of help motivate and equip individual lecturers or people responsible for teaching about technology with kind of tools to kind of be able to go out there and get started using this technology in their practice immediately. Because as we all know, it's fine to kind of provide information on this, but it's only the kind of individuals kind of putting this to use is kind of where the proof of the pudding is. Another element inside in each course is under this section, why should I use this particular technology for teaching or learning? In this case, why should I use online walls for facilitating student group work? We've developed a number of animations to kind of help provide this information in a more visual, more interesting kind of way. And I suppose this question, why should I use this technology for my teaching and learning, that's kind of core to the entire thing. That really is what individual lecturers, in our experience, what individual lecturers kind of want to know. It's fine to say, look, blogs are fantastic, discussion boards are great, social networks are the business, but unless you're able to kind of tell them, look, this is how it will benefit you, it will save you time, it will enhance or support your practice in some way, it can be very hard to kind of implement uptake. So the animations were kind of an attempt to maybe put that information out there. As Roisin kind of touched on, the structure behind these, as you can see there, is kind of merging a particular teaching and learning approach and the pedagogy behind that with a particular technology. Now, when we talk about the technology in these courses, we talk about them in quite a broad sense. So this isn't how do I use WordPress for critical reflection, it's how do I use blogs. And what we do is we provide some examples of the technologies in question, and we've tried to focus on freely available and easy to use technologies. And we also provide some resources then on kind of going, so the lecturer can go off and get started kind of teaching themselves how to use these tools. But as I said, it's not kind of how to use a very particular piece of software in a particular fashion. And the intention behind that as well is the idea that quite a lot of this content then would be reusable for the individual responsible for teaching within their own institution about how to use a particular technology. So you could take quite a bit of the information here and then maybe you could orientate it towards your own purposes. So this is why you should use a blog or a discussion board, this is how you can implement it into your teaching, and then maybe you can go on and say, and this is how you use, depending on what you're using in your institution, a Moodle blog, a Blackboard discussion forum, so on and so forth. So the intention really is to try and make the content reusable and repurposable for the two target audiences. As well as this, one thing which we're actually doing at the moment is putting all of the content for each course up in slide format on Google Slides, so there'll be a presentation which people can take and quickly and kind of easily put to use as well. Another element of the platform at the moment is case studies. So these are essentially just a selection of kind of stories from individuals such as ourselves or individual lecturers on how they're currently using technology for their teaching and learning practice. And the intention is to show what kind of people on the ground are doing and how they're doing it, and also to a degree to kind of try and, as with kind of this conference is about, celebrate these individuals and kind of what they're achieving out there. As well as that, we are holding a number of webinars. The idea with these is similar to the platform. They're designed to be quite short, quite digestible. They follow much of the same kind of format as the online courses. We're going to be holding those every 2 weeks from now on. They'll all be recorded as well and available on the platform for viewing afterwards. So, how am I doing for time?
You have got 3 minutes.
Fantastic. So, as I mentioned, the platform is live and available at the moment. We're putting out new batches of courses every month. As I mentioned, we're hoping to hold online webinars every 2 weeks. And what we're really interested in at the moment is just hearing back from individuals such as yourselves. So if you have any feedback on the platform, if you have any questions, if maybe you'd like to submit a case study about how you're using technology or in your own practice, if you have any ideas for courses, we'd really love to hear from people. There's a contact us page available, so if you just go to telu.me and go onto the contact page, then that takes you to a form where you can just let us know what you're thinking, and if you'd be interested in giving us a case study, we're mad keen to have as many case studies as possible. So finally, we're also available on Twitter. If anybody would like to get in touch with us at CIT_TEL, the hashtag which we're using for the platform is #TELU. We'd absolutely love to hear from you, so please get in touch with us. And as my glamorous assistant is demonstrating, we hold up God's own supply of coasters, of project coasters from Cork. So we'd really appreciate it if you take some off us, otherwise we have to bring them all the way back down to Cork. So if you'd like to talk to us afterwards, if you don't get a coaster, take a few, use them as frisbees, give them around the office, we'd be really appreciate it to go away with as few of these as possible.
We've
So,
closed for Dar's bag, so
yes.
we're
So-
only down the back if you don't get one. Just
so thank you very much.